tactical officers with guns. They cut off the internet.
Tonight, footage from inside the Wet'suwet'en blockade shows RCMP arrests, while one civil liberties group calls for police to stand down.
The goal of the artwork in the last couple of years has just been to collaborate with places that want to kind of tell Indigenous stories.
Canada's curling team has a new uniform designed by an Indigenous artist. And 44 days without drinking water in Iqaluit, and the city now faces another setback. Good evening. We start your APTN National News off in British Columbia tonight with newly released video shot from inside the blockades showing last week's RCMP arrest in the Wet'suwet'en pipeline conflict. And now a human rights advocacy group is calling for the police for police accountability. APTN's Lee Wilson has more.
Last Friday, day 2 of raids on Wet'suwet'en and its supporters and the natural gas pipeline dispute was caught in video from inside the blockades.
By tactical officers with guns. They cut off the internet.
Slato, Molly Wickham, spokesperson for the Gidamdan Access Point, explains police are outside the tiny house in the Coyote Camp on a forestry road in Wet'suwet'en territory. An RCMP officer outside states there is an injunction in place. Officers break down the door with assault weapons drawn and proceed to make arrests. That same day, Advocacy and human rights organization, the BC Civil Liberties Association, penned an open letter demanding RCMP stand down and leave the territory. Staff lawyer Veronica Morticius explains.
And to vacate unceded, unsurrendered Wet'suwet'en territory because the Wet'suwet'en peoples, the hereditary chiefs, they have maintained that RCMP do not have jurisdiction on their territory.
In late September, a Wet'suwet'en clan erected blockades as Coastal GasLink prepared to pass part of the 670-kilometer pipeline past the Wedzingwa on Maurice River. There was an increased police presence as tensions built, but then the RCMP set up a checkpoint controlling access up the forestry road. Enforcement of the injunction began last Thursday, resulting in 29 arrests, including documentary filmmaker Michael Toledano and photojournalist Amber Bracken. Toledano could be heard telling officers he's a filmmaker as they put him under arrest.
Yes, the RCMP are on sovereign Wet'suwet'en territory, but the RCMP still have to follow the law. And freedom of the press is enshrined in the Canadian Constitution, which is the supreme law that RCMP are charged to abide by.
On Friday, RCMP released a statement on arrests. The RCMP did not arrest anyone for being a journalist or detain anyone for performing their job. They were among those to whom the injunction was read, and they were afforded the opportunity to leave the structures. They did not identify themselves at any point during the dialogue with police, which lasted over 60 minutes. When police forced open the door and began to arrest those inside, the individuals then identified themselves as journalists. Media arrested during the injunction were among those released on Monday. Gidamdan camp leader Slato, Molly Wickham, was released last night. Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Kitimat.
The idea was to slow down traffic on Canada's busiest highway, Ontario's 401, in support of the people that were arrested in the RCMP Wet'suwet'en raid. But things didn't go as planned, and APTN's Annette Francis is in Dandenonga. Annette, what happened?
Thanks, Winnipeg. I'm here at the Dandenonga Powwow grounds where members of Six Nations and Akwesasne have met with members of Dandenonga. They're here to show their support of the Wet'suwet'en. The morning began with rolling blockades in the east and westbound lanes of Highway 401. The intent was to snarl traffic in a demonstration against the arrests of the Wet'suwet'en supporters last week. But it didn't exactly turn out as planned. The Six Nations members had such a small turnout they were unable to slow traffic. As for the group from Akwesasne, they had larger numbers and were able to slow down things in the eastbound lanes outside of Cornwall, Ontario. They adorned their cars with flags and signs. They say it's important for Canadians to know the story. As of yet, they have no more plans to continue the slowdown. Back to you.
The federal Liberals have highlighted Indigenous priorities in past throne speeches, and Tuesday's speech was no different. However, unlike the past, Indigenous leaders are more impatient with this third-term government, saying they can no longer wait for words to be put into action. APTN's Fraser Needham reports.
Governor General Mary Simon's first speech from the throne mentioned acting on several Indigenous issues, such as the calls to justice in the final report on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and supports for residential school survivors. In the past, Indigenous organizations may have been willing to be patient on government promises, but now it's time to act, according to the AFN's national chief.
I just felt like, given the circumstances that we're in, you know, with the atmosphere and the recovery of our little ones and a lot of the things that are happening right now, that there would be stronger language in the throne speech and more action oriented, because that's what I've been asking for as national chief since I started is, you know, enough with words and empty promises and empty apologies.
The Native Women's Association of Canada says the Liberal government continues to say the right things, but needs to be more specific on details.
So it's difficult for us to assess really what they're really intending to do in all of these areas. So, I mean, the shopping list includes MMIWG, their mention of housing, mental health strategies. It just goes on and on. But our concern, as it's always, you know, it comes to what's actually going to happen when the rubber hits the road. What are they actually going to do? Are they actually going to have the resources to do this?
The president of Canada's National Inuit Organization credits the government for its unprecedented funding of Indigenous priorities. But he too says the Prime Minister needs to act now.
There still is a lot to do. And I think if we heard anything in the last 6 months or so, from the unmarked grave sites discoveries to the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation and the Prime Minister's approach to that particular day, it's that Canada needs this Prime Minister, Prime Minister Trudeau, to take an active leadership approach to the reconciliation file.
However, the Trudeau government's priorities are to pass legislation banning conversion therapy, set greenhouse gas emission targets, and provide further pandemic supports, all before Christmas. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Today is the 44th day in a row that Iqaluit residents have not been able to use their tap water because fuel contaminated the system. Now comes news that one major alternative source of water is temporarily down, and the replacement has its own set of problems. The Armed Forces announced today their water purification plant at the river is temporarily not working. 100-kilometer-an-hour winds on Tuesday tore down one of the tents that keeps the water from freezing. That means more bottled water for Iqaluit, a community with little to no recycling. The Arctic Co-op and a sea lift company got together to collect the bottles and send them south for recycling. Now they've filled 5 sea cans so far, and they have no more room.
I think it's been really well. You know, we had a lot of good support from the community, and you know, when you fill 5 sea cans this quickly, it shows that there's, you know, people want to be able to recycle here.
We always love to hear what you think about this or any other story we bring to you. Here's how you can continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News and join the conversation and see our latest stories. Well, after a week of flooding on the West Coast, we now turn our gaze to the East Coast, where pounding rains are on the southwest portion of Newfoundland and Labrador. In a briefing earlier today, the province said it's dealing with 4 different sections of the Trans-Canada Highway that have been washed out. Parts of the province could get hit with nearly 300 millimeters of rain by tomorrow. That's almost double what usually falls in a month. The message from officials to residents was clear: stay out of the way.
Just stay home out of it. Like, you don't need to be out there unless you are a first responder, unless you're a frontline person. Do not be out there. You're getting in the way. There's no need to be out there, and possibility of harm is what scares me here. I'm very thankful that right now we have had no reports of power outages, and we've had no reports of personal injury that I'm aware of, and that's everything else we can rebuild, and we will rebuild.
Meanwhile, the massive storm has also washed out roads in Cape Breton. Near Indigenous, Nova Scotia, a large section of the road gave way, sending a Parks Canada truck deep into the bottom of the opening. The driver is recovering. Well, now back to BC, where crews in Abbotsford are working around the clock in Sumas Prairie, preparing for 2 more approaching storms.
We expect another 5 feet of height to be added to the dike prior to the weather event anticipated for Thursday.
Troops and volunteers are shoring up dikes and levees, with the first of 2 atmospheric rivers expected to hit southern BC tomorrow. The second storm is expected on Saturday. The mayor of Abbotsford is telling people in high-risk areas to gather 3 days' worth of supplies. Well, we need to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to take a sneak peek at a new Team Canada curling outfit inspired by Indigenous culture. Stay with us. Welcome back. A wave of shock is rippling through the Northwest Territories and Western Nunavut this week, as expecting mothers are being told that they will not be able to deliver their babies in Yellowknife as planned. Instead, they will be forced to go down to Edmonton. Our reporter Charlotte Morit-Jacobs explains.
So this is the baby. Julie Ann Beaupre of Yellowknife is 9 short weeks away from her due date, but her plans to stay close to home were dashed this week as her doctor broke the news. Expectant mothers in the territory and parts of Nunavut with due dates from December 10th until February 21st will have to travel to Edmonton to deliver their babies.
I was extremely shocked. I was more of like, oh, well, how long have you guys known this? Like, if you knew this longer, why didn't you guys bring it to the attention of getting more people up here or finding more people to hire.
And there's financial challenges. Beaupre's partner may have to stay behind to work.
I have only been to Edmonton to the airport and to the mall. That is it. So for me to go down there, if I were to go down by myself, for me to go down there, I'm going to be lost.
The NWT Health and Social Services Authority told APTN Stanton Territorial Hospital in Yellowknife is facing staff challenges and can't offer birthing services safely.
We have maintained all efforts on recruiting. And in October, when it became, when I had an early indication that we might be in this situation, we reached out to agency support to support us.
But whistleblower Heather Heinrichs, president of the NWT Midwives Association, says Stanton hasn't done enough to recruit midwives. She says in March, the GNWT allocated $600,000 to support midwifery services.
We know that 4 full-time midwife positions have not been posted in Yellowknife. 2 positions were posted just last week. We don't know why recruitment wasn't started earlier, and we don't know for sure how that would have looked, but we do know that 4 full-time midwives working in Yellowknife could go a long way towards mitigating the impact of staffing shortages on the obstetrics unit.
Casey Adlam, president of Larga Kikmiot, an Inuit medical boarding home in Yellowknife, says each month they receive at least a dozen prenatal patients along with their escorts. But this is something Nunavut have been doing for decades.
You know, it's not good for anyone to have to go that far away from home to have a baby because it's difficult enough, and you have children at home that you're worried about, and because they can't travel after a certain date, they can expect to be away from their family for long periods of time. I think it'll give people an insight to see what it's really like from people from Nunavut traveling to Yellowknife to give birth.
And for Beaupre, in her final trimester, there's a lot of unknowns.
Pretty stressed out. I'm overwhelmed with the whole situation. Honestly, I don't know how to feel about it. Like, my emotions, and it's just a roller coaster that keeps just going up.
Charlotte Moritz-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Starting next year, Team Canada curlers will be wearing a new uniform inspired by Indigenous culture. Curling Canada's new uniforms are designed by Ojibwe artist Patrick Hunter and will be worn at international events in 2022. The uniform has 7 trees for the 7 teachings, eagle feathers, and sacred medicines. The uniforms will debut at the Beijing Olympics and the Paralympics, and Hunter hopes that Indigenous people feel represented through these uniforms.
The goal of the artwork in the last couple of years has just been to collaborate with places that want to kind of tell Indigenous stories, and just see the artwork. Hopefully, young and Indigenous people, young and old, can kind of see themselves reflected on such a national stage.
Well, a Yukon First Nations artist has won a prestigious $20,000 art prize. Joseph Tisaga is the winner of the 2021 Yukon Prize for Visual Arts. He's a multidisciplinary artist who belongs to the Cascadena First Nation. Themes of his work include First Nations and colonial conflict, art history, and poetic musings. Over 100 artists applied for the prize, which recognizes excellence by Yukon visual artists. Tisaga says that he is thrilled about this recent win.
Super nice to be a part of that, just that dialogue. I had really established my practice up in the Yukon, and, that's like where my community is. And it's nice to be able to be a part of a conversation that's happening up there.
Big congrats from us all here too. Well, it's time for another break, but still ahead, Northwest Territories. Oh, I already told you about that, moms to be. We've got more after the break, including a Christmas wish list from In Focus. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Elk hunting season in British Columbia turned out well for friends and family of our viewer Janice Gladish as she shares with us this photo. We do take jerky offerings here at APTN. If you've got some to spare, ship it on to us. And you can also send your photos like this to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be featured as our next photo of the day. Let's take a look now at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting off on the east coast, we've got 11 in showers for St. John's, sunshine and 5 for Fredericton. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, showers and 4 degrees. Kuujjuaq, mix of sun and cloud, -6. Cass Bay, showers and 6 degrees. Saguenay, -2 and sunny skies. Peterborough, 6 and rain. Sault Ste. Marie, -4 and some flurries. -12 and sunshine for Sioux Lookout. Thunder Bay, sunny, -9. -18 for Thompson, -16 for Puckatawagan, sunny skies there. -13 and sunshine for Winnipeg. Barons River, -10, sunny. Regina, -1 and sunshine. 0 for North Battleford and Saskatoon, sunny in the south there too. Snow up in the north, -15 for Stony Rapids, -5 for Buffalo Narrows. Snow in the northern part of the province, -8 for High Level, -7 for Fort Chip. Sunny and warm down south though. Lethbridge 11, Medicine Hat 11. Kamloops, you're expecting showers, 10 degrees. Tofino, 12 and showers. Fort Nelson, sunshine and -18. Mix of sun and cloud and 8 for Prince George. -24 and snow for Dawson City. -22 and snow for Old Crow. Wrigley, -18 and snow. Snowing everywhere. Fort Simpson, you're -14. -22 for Inuvik and Fort McPherson. Snow there as well. -20 in Baker Lake. Chesterfield, -16. Sunshine there though. Joe Haven, -18 in sun. Tally-Oak, -24 in snow. Well, on today's In Focus, we did the heavy lifting for you. We compiled a massive list of creators to check off everyone on your Christmas buying list this year. We call it Wish List 2021, and here's some of the highlights from the artisans we talked to.
For fun, doing something I enjoy, and if people enjoy it, then I'm happy to do more.
I love it. Well, we absolutely have to mention, we would be wrong to not mention this, your Métis Christmas sweater. Like, are those flying off the online shelves or what?
Yeah, so I mean, if people are interested in that, it does take a couple weeks to ship, so it might be a good idea to get the orders in sooner if you do like it. Yeah, you know, and it's just kind of a play on what they call an ugly Christmas sweater, but with a Métis flair, right?
As soon as you have the infinity symbol on it, though, it can't be ugly, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's everyone's saying to me, that's not an ugly sweater. That's a beautiful sweater. I'm like, oh, thank you.
The children, our Indigenous children, need to be able to identify with a toy. The girls need to understand the teachings of the ribbon skirt. You know, they need to be very proud of themselves, be very strong, and to honor their sacred bodies. You know, that's what the ribbon skirt teachings are. So I had a lot of backlash saying, you know, it's about the dolls and why am I using these dolls? And it's not about the dolls. This is 100% about the ribbon skirt teachings and our girls honoring themselves and their bodies. And, you know, there's a lot of two-spirited people out there, and we had a lot of requests for, you know, the skirts for that. So, you know, in this day and age, we want all children to identify. It doesn't matter if they're boy, girl, or they identify other. They need to be able to see a toy and relate to it. And that's what this is.
Go check out our website for the full list of people that we featured there. Well, the holiday season is fast approaching, and if you get a parcel delivered by Purolator, you might be gifted the work of a rising young artist from the Saugeen First Nation in Ontario. That's Emily Kiegoweshik. Here is APTN's Elena McDougall with that story.
This year it's been good. It's been probably my best year since I've been painting.
And she's just 23. But Emily Kiegoweshik is growing a national audience for her work. In September, the CBC hired her as artistic director for Orange Shirt Day coverage. Recently, Purolator announced that Kiegoweshik's work would be featured on Ontario holiday shipping boxes.
So on the back of the box, there's 2 baby deers, and on the front there is a buck, an adult deer. And yeah, I wanted to bring this feeling of warmth and connection and being together with our families and, you know, focusing on like what's most important to us.
The company processes some 54 million packages during peak season and got 13 emerging artists from the provinces and territories to respond to the theme Light Up the Holidays. According to Purelator, the boxes are beautifully designed so that wrapping is not required.
It's exciting to me when I think about it because like Christmas morning is usually like a very special morning in a lot of different families. I know not everybody celebrates it, but still just the spirit of the holiday season is with everyone, and it's usually like one of my favorite times during the year. And so for people to like have that artwork in their home and during that special time, it's special to me.
As for what's next, Kiwagijik has more projects on the go. She hopes to focus on large paintings like this one in progress.
I'm about 3 days into it, so this is the background layer. Once it's finished, it'll look completely different than it looks right now.
She hopes it could join a larger collection in a gallery showing next year.
My dad actually, one night, he sent me a picture of the sunset, and so I had it printed off for my inspiration. And on the painting, there's going to be 2 large swans. There's actually wild swans that were down there.
The limited boxes can be found at shipping centers and mobile quick stop locations that offer Purelator Express services. Elena McDougall, APTN National News, Southampton, Ontario.
That is a lot of talent there, Emily Kiwagijik. That's your APTN National News for midweek. Thank you so much for joining us. Daryl Stranger is going to be back here on the desk tomorrow. Till then, have a great night.